Do you enjoy deck builders that change up the known formula quite a bit, making decisions more meaningful? Do you enjoy a nice theme with really beautifully drawn artwork? Then this might be the right game for you. Stick around for my review of Dale of Merchants. It is an age of great discoveries. New and wonderful items find their ways into the hands of the greatest merchants. And if there ever is a place those treasures love, it is the town of Dale. There's an extraordinary guild in the Dale founded by the greatest merchants. The tricky part is getting the membership, since one must win the annual trading competition to be invited to the guild. Notable animal folk, merchants from all over the world, have gathered in the town to take part in the event. Everyone has only one goal in mind: to be celebrated as the winner and the newest member of the legendary guild. In Dale of Merchants, players take the roles of those participating merchants, learning new techniques, trading goods, and managing their stock. The player who first manages to complete their astounding merchant stall wins the game and gets access to the guild. So this is the premise of Dale of Merchants. So Dale of Merchants is a deck builder. And now you might think, well, there are a lot of deck builders out there. What is so special about this game? Well, I will tell you. In Dale of Merchants, you have several decks. Decks with different animal folk. For example, you have the thieving northern raccoons here. Or you also have the lucky ocelots. And what you do when you first start the game, you pick as many decks as there are players, plus one. So let's say I have a 2-player game, then I would pick 3 decks to play with. So 2 plus 1, right? So for example, I would choose these 3, the raccoons, the ocelots, and the squirrels, and then we would set everything up here. There are 6 animal decks in each box, and also there is a special expansion with the beavers, and then you also have the collection. I think there are even 8 decks in there. So you have a lot of different decks to choose from. And how do you choose the right one? Well, Snowdale Design actually has a deck selection tool that helps you select the right decks for exactly the game you want to play. Let me switch over to the PC and I'll show you. Alright, so let's take a look at the deck selection tool. So first what you do is you say which games you own. So we have Dale of Merchants 1, 2, 3, the collection, and also the Beavers expansion. So I have the first game, the third game, and the Beavers expansion. So the tool knows which iterations to choose from for you. Then you do the player count. Let's say I do 2 players. And here now you can set certain attributes. For example, complexity, interactivity, nastiness, and randomness. So let's say you want to have a very complex game, a lot of interactivity, not too nasty, so no seating allowed. And randomness, you want to keep it to like, let's take medium randomness. And then you can say pick based on preferences. So the deck selection tool will now look at the player count, the games you own, and how you want to play. And there you go. Then you get these 3 decks, dealing giant pandas and adapting veiled chameleons from the first one. That's the first iteration here. And these superstitious snowshoe hares. And if you don't like that, usually there's more than one combination. So you can just click on that again, and you see chameleons and hares again, but you also get the tree kangaroos. Click on it again, and now you have the lemur. So you see there are quite a few possibilities for these combinations over here. So this is a really great tool. This works really well. All right, now let's get back to the game. We're back at the table now, and I will show you how to set up a game of Dale of Merchants. So let's just say that we take these 3 animal folk, and we have a 2-player game. That means we will give each player one of the animal decks with the 1 at the top, like this. Then we would remove all the other ones from the deck. Let me do that. We remove the other ones from the game, and then we shuffle up all the remaining cards. So let me give those just a quick shuffle. Of course, you would shuffle them a little bit better than that. And then we will put these cards right beside the market, which is that board over here. We will give each player as many junk cards so that each player has 10 cards. Since we have 3 cards in a 2-player game, we need 7 more junk cards. And 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like this. Then each player shuffles their deck like that and puts it in front of them. Then we fill up the market with 5 cards and we are ready to play the game. So how does this game work? First of all, everybody takes 5 cards, and now this player has a few actions he or she can do, and one action needs to be chosen. First of all, the player can buy a card from the market. The price of each card is indicated by the number in the top left corner plus the number that you see above the card. So that card would cost 2, that would cost 5, 6, 6, and 7. And the player can pay with the cards in his or her hand. So I would have 5 at my disposal. I could buy something with 5. The second action a player can do is to open a market stall, and this is where the goal of the game comes in. The goal of the game is to have 8 market stalls in front of the player, and these market stalls need to have a rating from 1 to 8. So if the player wanted to build the first market stall, he or she would have to put down a 1 for that stall. Junk cards cannot be used. They can be used to buy cards, but they cannot be used for these market stalls. So let's say that I would put down that card. That would be my turn, and I would have the first stall here. For the second one, I would need 2 here. So either I would put down a 2. For example, let's say I had this card in my hand. Then I could put that there in my next turn. Or I could combine 2 1s. But you need to keep in mind that each market stall can only be comprised of 1 animal folk type. So either all cards need to be red for the ocelots, or they need to be turquoise for the squirrels. So I could not open such a market stall here. That would not be possible. I could not build a stall like this, but I could build a stall like this. That would be possible. The third action a player has is to play a technique card. There are passives here. These passives come into play whenever you have that card in your hand. And also there are technique cards. Techniques are active abilities. You can just play the card and then you can do whatever that technique tells you to do. This can be really helpful, and this is where the different animal folk cards come in, with the passives and the techniques. And the fourth action you can do is just to discard some cards, for example these 3, and you can then draw up new cards. These are the 4 actions you can do during your turn. You can choose 1 each turn. And this will go back and forth until one player has finished all 8 stalls. After you have chosen and played your action, then you draw backup cards so that you have 5 in your hand again. And this is pretty much how you play the game. So every time you purchase a card, this card goes directly into your hand. So you don't put it in the discard pile first, like you do with most deck builders. And also, for example, let's say I played these 2 cards. I put them in my discard pile. And the 3 cards I still have in my hand, I keep them in my hand. I just draw 2 new cards for the next round, and that's pretty much it. There is almost no way to lose any cards. There are specific animal folk that can remove cards from the game, junk cards for example, which is quite handy. But in general, whether you buy a card or you play a technique or you discard cards, they all go into your discard pile, all of them. And this is where the deck building aspect comes in, because you get new cards from the market all the time. You need to, otherwise you can't finish your objective to win the game. And you will make your deck larger this way, like it is with the usual deck builder, and then get all the cards back in your hand. And this is pretty much how the game is played. I think I didn't miss anything. So it's quite simple, but don't let that deceive you, because the game is pretty deep strategically. So what do I think about the game? Well, I quickly fell in love with it. Let me start with the positives. The obvious thing out of the way, the art is just gorgeous. And themes regarding animals or nature are always great. So I'm really big sucker for that kind of theme. It's quite simple to learn, but allows for really interesting combinations and deep tactics. It has a great balance of difficulty of rules and game depth. So I played this game quite a lot now because I really like it, and it's incredible how the different combinations of animal folk can really alter your tactics. You can play each game differently pretty much, and this is a great thing. Also, while deck building is a mechanic I enjoy, Days of Merchants takes this to an entirely new level and makes it much better. When you gain a new card by buying it from the market, in most other deck builders, the card will go into the discard pile and sometime later into your hand. As I mentioned before, not in this game. Here you take it into your hand immediately, and you can use it in your very next round. Combined with the fact that, as I already also mentioned, unused cards stay in your hand, this allows for really interesting and deep tactical plays. It is merely beautiful and really smooth. So you can actually really plan out your next turn, which you usually can't do in deck builders, at least not in the way you can do it here. Also, the combinations of different animal folk decks, of course, adds a lot of replayability and ways to experiment. This way games can feel way different from another. Let me give you a quick example. So if you have the scrolls, for example, these help you build the stacks in your area. So for example, with this card you can include junk cards in your stacks, which you usually can't do. So you can just, for the 2 stack, you can just put a junk card there. Or you can, if you have the empty chest, for example, you can just add cards from another Animal Folk set. So for the 6 stack, you could just add another Animal Folk set. This is how the scrolls play. The scrolls play with different possibilities to build your stacks, which no other Animal Folk set can do. If you don't play with these scrolls, you are not able to play this way. But then again, you have the beavers, which I really like a lot too. And with the beavers, the techniques, they don't trigger immediately. So for example, you put this card here, you just play it out, and it just lies there until you use it, until the trigger is happening. For example, next time you purchase a card, you may place 1 card used in the purchase on top of your deck. This is not bad, because it stays there, and next round, for example, or whenever you buy a market card, one of the cards you use to purchase that card, you just put it on top of the deck, and the rest in the discard pile. So you can use that card immediately in your next turn again. And this is how the beavers play. And each Animal Folk set plays completely different, which switches up the tactic incredibly. Also, the format of the game is great. So the boxes of the first 3 iterations are very small, and you can take them pretty much anywhere. Look at this. It's just like the size of my hand, pretty much. Just a little bit wider and not very thick. So you can just take this pretty much anywhere. I'm pretty sure you could even take out the insert here and maybe arrange the cards this way that you can fit all 12 decks of 2 games in here. It's probably possible. So the format is just great. I can't forget the online deck selector, which I showed you in the beginning. It's a genius idea that lets you determine the style of play and suggests deck combinations for you. I mean, how much more user-friendly can you design a game? Probably not much. Where there is light, there also is shadow. What don't I like as much? The game is simple, but it's not a family game, although the art might suggest that. For that, it is too deep and allows for too many tactical plays, in my opinion. Also, the game can lead to minor analysis paralysis, which might be a problem for some people. This leads to the next aspect. Some people might be overwhelmed by all the choices or not be able to directly see possible tactical combinations that they might feel a bit stuck, unsure what to do. I personally never had that feeling, but I know of other people who did when we played together. Nothing I can confirm myself, but something to keep in mind in case that's something that relates to you. So after quite a few plays, there are Animal Folk that I keep coming back to because they're quite strong. For example, the squirrels and also the beavers. And also there are Animal Folk I hardly use since they're definitely weaker than the others. Maybe I just haven't found out their qualities yet, but that's the feeling I got after having played the game multiple times with different combinations. So I might have to go back to the other animals a few more times, but I got the feeling that some of them are just too weak compared to others. Dale of Merchants stole my heart. I love the art, the theme, the combinations, and the ease of play. It is by far my most favorite deck builder, and I definitely need to get the other iterations too, very soon. This game gets a clear recommendation from me for anyone who likes deck builders and or the satisfaction of pulling off an awesome combination with different Animal Folk cards. Alright, and that should pretty much cover everything I have to say about Dale of Merchants. If you're still watching, thank you very much for sticking to the very end, and also thank you very much to Snowdale Design for providing me with the review copies here, and I can't wait to play another game. Alright, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, take care everyone, bye bye.